Do you believe that one day aliens would take over our planet? This is a movie of an alien sorceress who intended to take the life force of Earth to build their damaged planet. Welcome to Magician Recaps Explains. The film begins in 484 AD. King Arthur, Liam Garrigan, is at war with the Saxons, and his wizard, Merlin, Stanley Tucci, forges an alliance with the Knights of Iokin, a group of 12 Transformers who have hidden on Earth an ancient alien ship. Merlin assured the Transformers that he's not going to show their hideout, but at this point, he needs their help. If not, they would all die. The Knights give Merlin an alien staff and combine into a huge dragon to help Arthur triumph over the Saxons. In the present day, most of the governments on Earth have declared Transformers outlawed, and the Multinational Transformer Reaction Force, TRF, has been formed to destroy the alien robots. Despite the absence of Optimus Prime, who left the planet to search for his creator, new Transformers continue to arrive regularly. The newest ship to arrive crash lands in the half of the ruins of Chicago, where it is found by a group of children. The kids intrude into the alien outlaw zone in attempt to pick up stuffs. When a TRF mecha confronts the kids, they are saved by Isabella Moner, a survivor of the Battle of Chicago, and her Transformer companions, Squeaks and Canopy. She threw a bottle into the air, confusing the mecha to attack each other. They run to hide under a debris. The mecha scanned, but couldn't find them. It goes, and Squeaks comes to the hideout. Isabella makes mention of him not being able to transform, though she is trying to fix it. Actually, the debris they are hiding under happens to be Canopy, and he's seen by the TRF as he starts to move. They strike missiles on him, and Canopy is injured by the TRF in the process. She asks him to get up, but since he's as brutally injured, he couldn't move, and he dies. Bumblebee and Kate Yeager, Mark Wahlberg, arrive and starts attacking the mecha. Bumblebee destroys it. Yeager tells Isabella it's over, but she keeps insisting she can fix him. But it's late, and he helps them escape. He spots a Transformer in the broken alien ship, but he is unable to save him. The Transformer gives Yeager a talisman, but he declines it, saying the Transformer can keep it. He leaves, and he's stopped by a Decepticon scout barricade and the TRF. TRF commander tells Yeager that if care is not taken, the Transformers would take over Earth, but Yeager says they only want a place to call home. Bumblebee arrives, and the TRF attack, making it to disassemble, but he eventually reassembled itself and starts getting rid of the TRF. Bumblebee and Yeager hold TRF commander at gunpoint, and Williams Lennox, Josh Duhamel, ask his men to stand down and let Yeager and Bumblebee go to avoid any further casualties. Another crazy Transformer appears and is ready to attack the TRF, but Yeager assures them that they should leave because they are not going to touch them. When leaving, the TRF plants a tracker on Bumblebee's body. Before the Transformer in the ship dies, the nightly robot attaches a metallic talisman to Yeager's body, which is seen by the Decepticon scout barricade, who reports this to his leader, Megatron. Megatron is mad that Scout Barricade let go of the talisman, but he insists there were TRF around. But he reveals to Megatron that the TRF can lead them to get the talisman. On the far reaches of the solar system, Optimus Prime discovers that the Transformers' home world, Cybertron, now disassembled into pieces, is heading directly for Earth. He finds the being in control of Cybertron's movement, the sorceress, Quintessa, who professes to be the maker he is searching for. The staff which the Knights stole from Quintessa and gave to Merlin. Quintessa wants to use the powers of the staff. She places Optimus under her control, dubs him Nemesis Prime, and charges him with recovering it. Earth, she reveals, is actually Cybertron's ancient enemy, Unicron, and she intends to drain his life force so that Cybertron can be restored. Meanwhile, giant horns start popping out at 6 locations on Earth. The Chinese call them the horns from hell. NASA figures out that the horns are creating an intergalactic dimension through which the disintegrating Cybertron will enter in 3 days' time. Yeager returns to his junkyard, not knowing Isabella followed him up. He attempts to chase her away, but she said she has no family, and the only family she got is killed. That's Canopy. Yeager allows her to stay after realizing that she's brilliant. TRF member and former Autobot ally, William Lennox, brokers a deal between the TRF and Megatron, releasing from their custody a squad of Decepticons that will help Megatron recover the talisman from Cade. William is ordered by his seniors to do the deal to ensure that the weapon, the staff, is found by Megatron so that the US military, who has Megatron under surveillance, can retrieve the weapon. William is also ordered to reveal Yeager's location to Megatron, since Yeager has the talisman which will reveal the location of the staff. Megatron hunts Yeager down and follows him to his junkyard hideout in South Dakota, where he and many of the surviving Transformers are holed up. They manage to destroy most of the Decepticons. After the Decepticons retreat, Yeager is approached by Cogman, a Transformer envoy of British Lord Sir Edmund Burton, Anthony Hopkins, who takes him and Bumblebee to England to meet his master, leaving behind Isabella and the others. There, Burton arranges a meeting between Yeager and Vivienne Wembley, Lower Haddock, an Oxford professor. Wembley has just been kidnapped by the Autobot, Hot Rod, using his long-term disguise as her Citroën DS. Burton explains that he is the last living member of the Witwicken Order, an ancient brotherhood dedicated to guarding the secret history of Transformers on Earth. He also reveals that Vivienne is the last descendant of Merlin, and that she must find and use his staff to prevent the impending destruction of Earth by Cybertron. He reveals that Merlin was given the staff by the Transformer Knights, and it was fused with his DNA, which means that only a direct descendant of Merlin can operate the staff and wield its awesome power. The staff was buried with Merlin's body and was protected by the 12 alien knights. Suddenly, they are attacked by both TRF and Megatron. They engage in a hefty chase and finally escape the attack. Fleeing the TRF, Yeager and Wembley follow clues left by the latter's father that led them, Bumblebee, and Cogman to take the submarine HMS Alliance into the sea to find the Cybertronian Knights' sunken ship. Meanwhile, they are being tailed by TRF. Finally, they discover the tomb of Merlin and the staff. Vivienne activates the staff, and the ship starts rising to the surface. The TRF arrives to confront the group, but several knights awaken and attack them. The attack is cut short by the arrival of the mind-controlled Optimus. Yeager is happy to see Optimus, but he's later disappointed to see him behaving strangely. Yeager asks Vivienne to give Optimus the staff, and a battle between Optimus and Bumblebee ensues. At its fighting peak, the normally mute Bumblebee finally speaks, the sound of his voice proving enough to shock Optimus, freeing him of Quintessa's control. Optimus regrets his actions. Taking advantage, Megatron, who is revealed to be conspiring for Quintessa all along, arrives and steals the staff. As he flees with it, the Knights attack Optimus. However, Yeager, whose talisman becomes the sword Excalibur, stops the fight. Realizing that he is the last knight, the Knights yield to Yeager, who urges Optimus to protect the Earth once more. Megatron then delivers the staff to Quintessa, who begins draining the life force of Earth, or Unicron, via Stonehenge. When the British military intervenes, Megatron shoots Burton, who dies with Cogman at his side. With sorrow, Cogman reveals that, among all his masters that he had served, Burton is the coolest. Using a ship procured by the Autobot, Day Trader, the Autobots arrive to join the fight, landing on Cybertron and battling against the Decepticons and Quintessa's Infernocons. Optimus and his Autobots, backed up by the Knights in their dragon form, vanquish their foes. Optimus sends Megatron flying from Cybertron back down to Earth, while Bumblebee shoots and apparently kills Quintessa. Vivienne removes the staff, stopping Cybertron's destruction of Earth, destroying Cybertron in the process. Optimus declares that humans and Transformers must work together to rebuild their worlds, and sends a message calling any surviving Autobots to come home. In a mid-credits scene, scientists inspect one of the horns of Unicron, which is extending out of the desert. Quintessa, who has survived and is disguised as a human, arrives and offers them a way to destroy Unicron. That's all for this movie recap. Just like and subscribe for all blockbuster movie recaps. What advice would you give to your younger self if you get the chance? This movie portrays one of the answers. Welcome to Magician Recaps Explains. Let's jump right into it. In Belgium, Henry Brogan, Will Smith, an aging former Marine Scout sniper who now works as an assassin for the Defense Intelligence Agency, DIA, is sent on a mission to assassinate an anonymous terrorist aboard a bullet train. During the mission, Henry's spotter, Marino, warns him of a young girl approaching the target, causing Henry to delay his shot until the last second, shooting the man in the neck despite aiming for his head. Marino tells him how great he is and shows him a video he took in the train, but Henry told him to delete it. A few days later, disillusioned with killing, Henry retires from government service. Del Peterson visits him in his house, and Henry tells him about how he aimed for the head but hit the neck instead. Del said he would be missing him since he's retired, and worried about how he's going to trust the next guy that would take Henry's place. Henry is worried about that little girl, who was close to the target, saying if he had made a little mistake, that little girl would be dead. Del wishes him well on his retirement. While adjusting to retirement, Henry meets boat rental manager, Danny, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who helps him by giving Henry a boat to reconnect with an old friend, Jack Douglas Hodge, who reveals that an informant named Yuri Ilya told him that the man Henry killed was innocent, but Henry, demanding proof, says he read the suspect files, but Jack told him the file is being spiked. Henry has Jack arrange a meeting with Yuri. Meanwhile, they are being monitored, and Henry noticed it. In retaliation for Henry knowing their deception, agency director, Lassiter, Linda Emmond, plans to kill him. However, Clay Veras, Clive Owen, head of a top-secret black operations unit code, named Gemini, requests permission to eliminate him but is denied, with Lassiter saying she can handle it herself. Clay warns her not to mess up this time, because he's the only one that has someone who can take Henry down. While returning, he removes a tracking device from the boat, making him to realize Danny is a fellow agent sent to monitor him. Henry approaches her, asks if she's an agent. She denies it, but he later tricked her to admit she is. Henry befriends her, fully knowing that Danny has been assigned to keep an eye on him. In the night, agents break into his house. While asleep, he is alerted and armed himself. He eventually kills them all. After his home is broken into by government agents, Henry calls Marino to move out from the city and never return, because they know he is associated with him. Unfortunately, Marino was killed while on the phone. Jack and his mistress are also attacked on their boat, and they are both killed. Henry goes and warns Danny about the attack. Henry leaves to pick up some guns. Meanwhile, Danny is attacked in her office while making an arrangement to flee with Henry, but she managed to kill the assassin. At the end, they managed to kill the assassin sent after them, learning the agency wants them both dead. They flee to Colombia. Escaping to Colombia, Henry and Danny meet and go to the home of Henry's former colleague, Baron Benedict Wong, and plan to meet with Yuri for further options. Henry calls Del to ask about betraying him, but Del claims he has nothing to do with it. Henry asks if Marino and Jack are dead, and he confirmed it. Del borrows a student's phone and calls Henry back, telling him that Gemini is now involved in this, so they have a problem. Henry asks if the terrorist he eliminated has anything to do with Gemini, and he reveals he was once working for them. Henry is mad at Del to make him pull trigger for Gemini. Later, Henry tells Danny his encounter with Clay and how he used to work for him. Meanwhile, after Lassiter attempts to kill Henry failed, Lassiter asks Clay the way forward with Henry, and Clay takes it upon himself to eliminate him, though Lassiter is not fully in support. A few days later, Clay dispatches his top assassin to kill Henry. Henry spots him and goes to Danny and tells her to stay low since they are shooters around. He goes outside the building while monitoring the killer's move. They start a shootout, and when Henry gets the chance to put the killer down, he realizes something strange and decides not to shoot him. Yet still, the killer tries to kill him. Fighting him off, Henry realizes the assassin bears an uncanny resemblance to himself as a young man with a similar skill set. Henry moves out to get on a motorbike, leading to a hefty race and a motorbike chase. Finding it hard to get rid of the killer gradually catches up with him and performs a great move. Causing Henry to fall from his bike, the killer attacks him severely, and when he got the chance to kill him, the police arrives, making him to escape, leaving behind Cap. The police arrested Henry, but Baron and Danny got him out. When the injured assassin arrives at a safe house, he is revealed to be Clay's adopted son, Junior. Although he is curious about his similarities to Henry, but Clay insists he's his son and will always love him, and he ordered Junior to finish the job. Henry is also troubled by his similarities to the assassin, whom Danny suggests might be his child. Despite Henry's denials, testing DNA samples recovered from Junior, Danny discovers that his and Henry's DNA are identical, revealing Junior as Henry's younger clone. Desperate for answers, Henry meets Yuri in Hungary and learns of the cloning project, and that the man he killed was one of the project's scientists. Having designed a method to produce clones, devoid of pain or emotion, the scientist tried to leave the project and was killed upon being discovered. He tells Henry to work with him, since they are all after a common enemy. Trying to get Junior to turn away from Clay's intentions, Henry calls Lassiter, asking her to bring Danny back in, who agrees to send Junior to bring Danny safely back to the United States. Collecting Danny, he makes her to undress, in order to make sure she's not wearing a wire. Junior makes her call Henry to tell him to meet him. They ride to an ancient building. They move inside the building, and Junior sets up a trap for Henry and ties Danny to a spot, but she warns him via a covert listening device hidden in her tooth. Danny asks why he wants Henry dead, and he reveals Henry kills 8 agents, but Danny tries to convince him that this agent were sent to kill Henry rather, but he didn't listen. Ambushing the younger assassin, Henry explains to Junior that he is a clone, convincing him by revealing their similar traits that no one else could know. Yet still, Junior attacks him, fighting furiously and nearly killing Henry, but Danny rescued him, making Junior escaping back to Gemini. A heartbroken Junior confronts Clay, saying he's been deceiving him all these while, but he says he did that for the best of Junior. Clay claims that he must defeat Henry in order to surpass him. Finding Henry after sneaking out of Gemini, Junior shot a tranquilizer on Henry, which starts to kill him. Danny begs him, and he injects him the antidote, making him to feel better. Baron asks why they know all their moves, and Junior reveals they are being tracked. He removes the tracker from Henry. Junior allies with him to bring down Clay, while Henry urges Junior to quit in order to become someone better. Junior asks about Henry's mother and more about him. In the middle of the town, Clay called Junior to get out of the car. They are attacked with the missiles, and Baron is killed in an ambush ordered by Clay. Henry and Danny take shelter in a provision shop nearby. The men start shooting at them, destroying anything that's in their way. Junior confronts Clay to tell his squad to back off, but instead, Clay fights him, and Junior knocks Clay unconscious after the brief hand-to-hand fight. After defeating a wave of Gemini operatives, with Junior's help, Clay orders another operative to attack them. Henry, Danny, and Junior face another operative, with special body armor, who feels no pain or emotions. After shooting him repeatedly, and along with several secondary explosions, they manage to kill him. They remove his helmet, and he is also discovered to be a younger clone, with all emotion and ability to feel pain removed. A defeated Clay tries to justify his actions towards Junior, who almost shoots him. Henry persuades Junior not to kill him, but kills Clay himself, having already lived with a heavy burden. Assured from Dell that there are no more clones that were produced, and that they are finally free from harm's way, Henry later meets with Junior, who has enrolled into college under the assumed identity of Jackson Brogan, after Henry's mother's surname. Together, Henry and Danny plan Jackson's future. That's all for this movie recap. Just like and subscribe for all blockbuster movie recaps. Spoilers ahead. Sit back and enjoy this 2011 blockbuster movie, Colombiana. Welcome to Magician Recaps Explains. The film begins in Bogota, Colombia. Fabio, Jesse Borrego, is speaking to Don Luis Beto Benitez, a drug lord and his boss. Fabio wants to quit. Meanwhile, Don Luis is not happy about the decision, but he pretends everything is fine. When Fabio leaves, Don Luis tells Marco, Jordi Mala, to shoot Fabio, saying, "No one leaves the cartel." Fabio knows pretty well that Don Luis would attack him, so he makes his mind up to flee. Fabio is leaving the country with his wife, Alicia, Cynthia Day Robinson, and daughter, Catalia, Amanda Stenberg. He gives Catalia a microchip and tells her to go to U.S. Embassy if anything were to go wrong. Shortly, Macro arrives at the house and starts killing Fabio's men. Marco eventually kills Fabio and Alicia. Catalia is shocked, making her not able to move an inch. Marco tries to deceive her to give out the chip, but she stabbed him in the hand. Catalia swallows the microchip and swears to kill Don Luis. She escapes, making Marco's men to chase after her, but she lost them by seeking a refuge in a ditch, and somehow manages to reach the U.S. Embassy. She vomits the microchip to her freedom by requesting to be sent to the United States. The microchip has details of all Don's illegal activities and is very valuable for Americans. They take Catalia to U.S. In U.S., she lost the escorts and goes to Chicago to meet her uncle, Emilio, Cliff Curtis. Emilio is Fabio's brother. Catalia is finally able to let go and cries in her uncle's arms. Catalia asks Emilio to train her as a killer to avenge Fabio. Emilio enrolls her in the best school in Chicago, but she rebels, saying vividly she wants to be a killer. Emilio demonstrates how dangerous it is to be a killer, as he wants her to learn some basic knowledge to be a smart assassin. Years later, Catalia, Zoe Saldana, is now grown up and is a trained assassin, very skillful. She accidentally jammed into a station police car, and she's arrested after realizing she is drunk. At the station, they couldn't find any vital identification about her except a library ID. She is sent into a cell. Sometime later that night, the police brings in a prisoner in a mask. Immediately the place becomes calm. She gets up and changes herself. She used a pin to break the cell lock and steps out. She tilts the camera to a blind spot before getting a cup of water from a water dispenser. She goes to the electrical room and sets a trap with the cup of water. She squeezes through the ventilation canal, as the cup of water causes a short electricity outage, making the turbine to stop moving. She luckily passes through before the light comes back. She manages to shoot a guarded prisoner, her target, inside a prison, while framing the prison guard, and also while being under arrest and in a log cell herself in the women's section of the prison. The alarm is triggered to alert the murder of the prisoner. The police station is locked down not before Catalia is released. Catalia heads to the apartment of Danny, Michael Vartan, a painter and her quasi-boyfriend. Danny knows little about her, and only knows her as Jennifer. Danny and Catalia have sex. FBI Special Agent Ross Lenny James comes to the jail and realizes the victim is the latest of a string of murders they have been tracking for the past 4 years, 22 in all. They call the perpetrator the tag killer due to the markings the killer leaves on the chest. It is the Catalia flower. CIA agent Richard Callum Blue travels to New Orleans to a heavily guarded villa. It is the home of Don Luis, who was brought to US by CIA in exchange for info. Richard shows him the hit from the jail cells, but Luis denies he had anything to do with it. Luis suspects Catalia to be behind the killings and asks Marco to handle it. Ross holds a meeting about the tag killer and their numerous victims. He concludes that one of the people in the jail killed the target, and they need to find out who. Meanwhile, Catalia goes to see Emilio. He shows her the paper with her calling card. He is livid. A hedge manager created a Ponzi scheme and stole billions and fled the country. People want him dead. That's her next target. She won't stop till Luis is dead. Ross is at the FBI office, going over security footage. Some of his agents think the killer is Catalia, but he cannot believe a woman would be this type of killer. In Mexico, mansion of the hedge manager who lives in opulence, surrounded by stunning women. He also has an aquarium of sharks. He tells his guards he's bringing an extra set of guards, just to keep the place tight. Soon, the extra guards arrive. Meanwhile, Catalia is hiding under their van. Catalia swims through the aquarium and pushes up a glass cover to enter the mansion. The hedge fund manager gets up and notices Catalia wrote on him, "Thief," and the flower design. He walks around his mansion and notices all his guards are dead. He tries to shoot her, but there's no bullet in the guns. Catalia shoots him in the legs. The man pleads with her to not kill him. Catalia shoots him in the chest, and he falls into the open pool. The blood flows, and his sharks eat him alive in seconds. Ross is looking at the tag killer calling card, when the mailman gives him a vital clue. It is the Catalia flower that only grows in Colombia. Ross tries to tie it to open cases in Colombia but is denied access due to CIA jurisdiction. Ross calls Richard and asks for clearance, but Richard dodges the issue. He puts pressure on Luis to resolve the issue. Macro resorts to door-to-door search in Chicago to find Catalia. Danny and Catalia have sex. He takes a picture of her with his iPhone. Danny tries to get close to Catalia, but she is afraid that he will get hurt. Catalia meets with Emilio. He is livid, having seen the paper. Catalia has not stopped with her calling card. People are looking for them, showing that 8 people were gunned down in a bar, one being a friend of Emilio. "You're retired," Emilio tells her. Catalia refuses to give up. Danny shows Catalia a photo to a friend, who calls his sister-in-law, who is a cop, to check if Catalia or Jennifer is legit. When Danny is distracted, he sends the photo to the cop. Ross is at his computer when it is pinged with Catalia's photo. He traces the signal to the other police station. Ross compares the photo to the security footage at the jail, and it's a match. Catalia is the woman who he is looking for. He quickly finds her location and makes a call. Meanwhile, Emilio is being monitored by Marco. Later that day, Danny mentions the photo to Catalia and she immediately leaves the apartment. SWAT team are already outside. Catalia manages to escape by grabbing her weapons and bomb a side wall of her apartment. She escaped to the garage where she shoots the cameras, alerting the police where she is. She finally escaped via a planned escape route. She heads to Emilio and finds the whole family being murdered, and later find Emilio tortured and dead. She breaks down in tears. At the station, Ross is more concerned about arresting Catalia. Sometime later, he goes home. Meanwhile, Catalia meets Ross at his apartment and holds him at a gunpoint. She trapped him and tells him about Don Luis killing her parents and the police doing nothing about it. Catalia shows him the bodies of Emilio and the other family members that were killed. But Ross said he can't help her, and she threatens him. She asks him to approach Richard for the info on Don Luis. Ross has to agree as Catalia promises to kill his family if he doesn't comply. At Richard's office, Ross asks for Don Luis' location, but Richard refuses, and Catalia fires shots at him. When Ross is meeting him, Richard gives Ross the address for Don Luis. Ross leaves. Catalia goes to Pepe's garage. He was Emilio's trusted friend and was killed by Marco. She grabs some guns. She sees the two dogs and takes them along. Marco and his men are also being prepared to face Catalia, with Marco saying she is very dangerous, so they should be alert anytime soon. Suddenly, Catalia attacks Don's home with a missile. Don Luis passed out for a while, and Marco helps him out to escape. Marco's men attempt to move in a vehicle to attack, but Catalia smashes into their car with a firefighter truck. She kills all the men. Marco hides Don Luis and tells him to wait on his call. Catalia kills all their men and faces Marco in hand-to-hand combat. After exchanging of so many blows, she eventually kills him by stabbing him in the neck. Don Luis tries to escape in a van when Catalia calls him from Marco's phone. He tells her she can never find him. Don Luis threatens to find and kill her, not knowing she had put Pepe's dogs in the van, and now tells them eat. The trained dogs proceed to eat Don Luis. Danny was taken into custody by Ross and the FBI. Danny knows little and tells them so. Ross says while he is not under arrest, he still has questions to answer. Danny asks for coffee and Ross goes to get it. Danny gets a call from Catalia. She tells him she's okay and they have 40 seconds before they trace the call, so that's enough time to ask 3 questions. He asks for her real name, and she tells him it's Catalia. Danny asks if his little bird will return one day, meaning her. Catalia tells him that maybe one day she can. Danny has only seconds now. I love you, Danny says, which makes Catalia tear up. Ross orders him to give over the phone, but Catalia hangs up before he can get anything from her. Ross stares at the phone and tells Danny he's free to go. Catalia puts her sunglasses on and gets on a bus for a destination unknown. Hope you enjoyed this movie. Why don't you hit the subscribe and like buttons to get more interesting movies on our channel?